Hey guys, welcome back to Quick Notes with Chris on. Today we're going to be talking about the law of empowerment. Law number 12 and 21, Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. Now this one is a very interesting quote because it essentially talks about being a secure leader, not only within your personal, emotions, foundations, and beliefs, but specifically your foundational directions when it comes to finances and so on and so on and so on. So only secure leaders can look towards empowering others. So how is it that you might view yourself as secure? Well, it basically talks about also being specifically in finances. It uses a little bit of olden day language, for example, in things like it uses paupers, debtors, and hoarders whenever it comes to describe leaders. See, the lack of real perceived financial security necessarily to give generously to others. So your leader needs to look towards essentially empowering others before oneself. But in order to empower others, it needs to focus on security, not only emotionally, but also financially. It breaks it down into the different situations where people value different things financially. For example, leaders without purpose are like paupers. Now, paupers are essentially poor people, people who don't make the correct financial decisions. That's how the book talks about. So if I use any sort of jargon that you might necessarily be familiar with, I'll do my best to explain it as I go. Leaders without authenticity are like debtors. So debtors are essentially people who, on the surface, they look like they're doing great, they look like they're doing fine, but really deep down, they're in a lot of debt. Now, for an example, this is a person who utilizes a lot of financial shortcuts to get themselves into large amounts of debts, and it'll just basically appear on the surface that they're looking great. For example, they might have $1 million home, they might have a really great car, they might be looking really great at housing and stuff like that, and they might look like a perfect family on the outside, but inside they're rotten. They're in basically extreme financial debt, and so on and so on and so on. And they utilize this analogy when it comes to leadership. So for example, a leader who essentially is in a lot of debt is a debtor, someone who doesn't necessarily follow through with what they're looking towards achieving. They're talking about things that they don't necessarily have mastered themselves. They appear wealthy, but secretly they're on the verge of bankruptcy. And it's basically talking about making sure that you're the same way. Now, leadership as a hoarder is essentially someone who's set on a pile of wealth, but refuse to give any level of generosity or charity. So for example, this is a leader who has all the knowledge, has all the things that they know in order towards becoming successful, but are purposefully hoarding it because they feel as if they might create a competitor. Now, although that might be true, it's important that you utilize the previous laws before them, specifically the law of solid ground, in order to ensure that the people that you are sharing with are people who won't become your competitor. There's a level of trust there, and they're making sure that you have your best intention in mind. So, as a leader, we can only lift others up when we're first standing on a solid and firm foundation. There has to be a reason as to why you're looking towards achieving certain things. So, understanding that you want to be a leader that has that level of empowerment themselves in order to empower others, it's not easy to do, but it's essentially by being secure within oneself, understanding your weaknesses, minimizing them as best you can, but not necessarily hiding from them, capitalizing on the strengths that you do have, building an organization around them, and essentially fulfilling the gaps in with people around you that can make sure that you are standing on solid and a firm foundation. If there's a level of trust within your organization, you can look towards always bringing other people up. If there's a weak foundation, then you have to be careful on the people that you're sharing with. You have to be consistently careful about the words that you're saying, what can be used against you, and so on and so on and so on. But when a foundation is created on trust, belief, loyalty, and essentially correct relationships, then you can look towards building up from there through empowering others and making sure that they're looking towards striving the right thing. For example, a leader that's personally insecure is always going to be an insecure leader. A leader that is always struggling personally with a lot of relationships, with a lot of beliefs, values, and rules, are always going to struggle to empower others with these rules themselves if he's second guessing them. If you ever look at any type of organization, if the leader itself, the person at the front of the stage, the person who's leading the project, isn't exactly sure on the vision that he has for the company, then no matter what, it's going to fall apart, or he's going to be replaced, or she's going to be replaced. So it's very important that you first understand what it is that you're looking towards achieving. Now, how do you do that? Asking questions. Making sure that you look towards yourself. Write out what it is that you value. What are your beliefs? What are the rules that you set yourself? Whenever it comes to these decisions that you have to make for ultimatums, if you understand first your values, beliefs, and decisions that you've already made in the past, it always is going to make these decisions in the future far easier. For example, if you're leading a company and you have to look towards changing the direction, and there might be an opportunity where you have to choose towards essentially giving up some of your values and morals of belief, or you might have to do something questionable, if you already understand what it is that you value, it makes this decision making far easier. And when you first initially understand your values, beliefs, and morals, it makes it so much easier to empower others with these same ones. If you're secure, you can make someone else secure. Then and only then can you look towards inspiring others. So it's very important that, once again, before you look towards developing anyone else, you look within and develop yourself. Now, how is it that you do this? I've always spoken about it in every other video. Number one, plug plug into a mentorship. If you can learn from someone else's mistakes, then of course it's going to be quicker. They're quicker and faster. They can identify the issues that you might be happening before you realize them yourself, implement solutions, and give you advice on how to overcome certain obstacles within your life before you have to literally go through the example and mistakes yourself. It's always better to learn from someone else's mistakes before your own. Next, read books and look towards accomplishing and developing things every single day. The person who reads the most is the person who's going to develop the most. Generally speaking, that is a very, very easy and simple rule to abide by. So if you already don't have a reading habit, I highly suggest you develop it. If you don't know anywhere to start, look towards talking to your mentorship. Now, if you don't know where to start, develop resourcefulness, not resources. Resourcefulness is basically the ability to create resources. If you can do this, nothing will ever actually become an obstacle because you can always look towards developing relationships and developing avenues on how to solve certain problems. Now, let's go back to the law of empowerment. If you can understand their why, then you can understand how it basically aligns with your why. Your why basically talks about why it is that you're doing something. What is the reason that you're looking towards empowering others if you first understand what is empowering you? If your goal is to looking towards achieving something grand and something basically essentially outside of yourself, then you can always understand what it is that might be able to look towards inspiring others if you can first understand what inspires them. A humble leader does not deny his or her strengths, but is basically honest about their abilities. So many people mistake empowerment with ego. There is a huge difference. If you ever look at any successful person in the past, they don't necessarily boast about their shortcomings, but they're definitely proud of what it is that they're able to accomplish. Now, that doesn't mean that you necessarily go out and you start boasting to the correct people, but you should be proud of your accomplishments. A great leader is happy to put themselves on the line and put themselves out there to be judged because they're proud of what it is that they have towards offer. But don't let that cloud your judgment whenever it comes to decision making. You see, ego is something that is awesome to drive you. If you're proud of yourself, proud of your achievements, that is great, but you should definitely learn, and a great leader knows when to put it aside, especially whenever it comes to learning. So it's understanding the difference and when to implement those two. Ego is great. It's awesome. It drives you. It makes sure that you're looking forwards. It's awesome to have a great sense of self, but it is very negative if it clouds your judgment whenever it comes to learning. Understand that you can always be learning, either from what not to do or from what to do, depending on the person that you talk to, depending on the situations that you're in, and especially from there you can look towards growing. So understand the difference between humble. Humble is basically being honest with your strengths and honest with your weaknesses. There is a difference. It's not necessarily being not proud of your accomplishments, but not necessarily boasting about them. Prize integrity above image. This is what empowerment is about. Integrity means that you are what you say and you say what you do. They're good, they're about the same as both. If you say you're going to do something, it's as good as done. If you've ever met those types of people, that's someone that you should definitely emulate, especially if they follow through with what they say. How can a leader be trusted if you don't know exactly what he's going to follow through with? You want to be a person that whatever agreement you make with your people, with your organization, or speech that you give to the people that you're talking to, you follow through with what it is that you say with your best intentions. Then and only then can you be a person who's essentially humble because your achievements that you've set out to achieve are also what it is that you said you were going to. Therefore, they're one of the same, and you can always be an individual of trust. Going back to that solid ground means that you are what it is that you set out to do. Whatever you say means that you're following through with. There is a level of trust, honesty, and understanding that you have the best intentions for everybody around you. Then and only then can you develop an organization and empower them with the same strengths that you're talking about, and the same strengths that you can look towards developing in others. Now, I understand it's tough, especially if you're just starting when it comes to the leadership game. I highly suggest when you do this, you basically empower this quote through looking towards empowering yourself. Develop a mentorship. Going back to the inner circle, choose the people that surround yourself with that force you to level up. They have what it is that you're looking towards achieving, and there's a level of financial interest between the two of you. Then and only then can you make sure that your association is looking towards developing you versus bringing you down. So many situations, so many examples of so many different relationships and friend groups that I see are filled with people who aren't looking towards striving towards become better, not necessarily because they lack it, but because of who they're simply hanging out with. If you can look towards controlling the people that you surround yourself with, then you can look towards controlling the environment that you're growing up with. Just like how you wouldn't want a kid growing up with a bunch of basically drug addicted people, the same way goes for the opposite. You want your person growing up with people that are looking towards achieving the things that you're looking towards accomplish. They can give you the same advice that you're looking towards achieving, that it's just a matter of time before you get the achievement yourself. Anyways, guys, that's it for the law of empowerment, number 12 in the 21 Irrefutable Laws by John C. Maxwell. But don't stop there whenever it comes to improvement. Keep looking at the other videos that we have on the channel. I will be uploading a few more videos for the rest of the day, so don't stop there. But if you like what we're doing, the new format and what it is that we're looking to accomplish, like, comment, subscribe, share with someone that you might necessarily like, who might be able to enjoy this video, at the very least put them in a better position for financial success. But don't stop there. I'm Chris, and I'll see you in the next one.